Hi Brooke, it's Katelyn again. I'm excited to talk a little bit more about some pictures. These look great. I'm glad you sent over a different set, and they're all from really different types of shoots, so that's great. I'm going to start with this image, and I'm going to start looking at the one that's not edited because I noticed just one thing about your lighting that you may find helpful. So when I look at this, I can tell just by looking at it, the light here and the light on his arm and how bright it is over here, that the sun was actually coming over this way. And so if the sun is set or it's overcast, it's actually going to be more beneficial for you to take your subjects and face them towards the sun. So this bright light is really lighting up their faces, and you can have clouds in the background. So I think that's my best piece of advice for this picture would be, when you're shooting in situations like this that are maybe overcast or the sun is like really, really gone and you're just dealing with a little bit of leftover sunset light, turn your subjects towards the light source because that creates pop, and there's not really enough light here to backlight your image, if that makes sense. So if the sun was still up and it was glowing, then this would be a great location and a great way to pose your clients away from the light. But because the sun is gone, I think that's the reason it feels kind of dark and a little bit drab, but not in a bad way. I really think it's literally just a lighting issue. So if I was editing this, I believe, let's see, is this what, yeah, so this is what you sent. Okay, and this is what it looked like, and it looks great. I would change a few little things. So I would just watch again the darks. So say you want to darken the shadows of an image, that's great, but sometimes it darkens too much, and lines and crevices and little shadows start to look too heavy. Like his shirt is really dark, and her areas around her hair are a little dark. Her eye sockets are really dark. She has really inset eyes, and so that's something she's probably a little bit self-conscious about. So I would just lighten it up a little bit by lightening the darks. Maybe not the shadows because that gives it a little bit of pop. But you can also use a little bit of fill light. Okay, and I really like warm images, so I might warm it up just a little, just a little. So let's look at. Let me copy this. So this is originally what it looked like, and then this is what I edited to. So that was the one you sent, and this is the one I re-edited. I just warmed it up a little bit, and I just adjusted the blacks on this image, or the darks, excuse me, and the fill light or the shadows. So I just brightened it up a little bit, and sometimes you just need someone to tell you to do that, because if you've been looking at these pictures during the editing process, you start to forget exactly what you're doing. So hopefully it's helpful to have me look at it and say, oh, I noticed this. So that's all I have to say about that one. It's beautiful. They're really cute. You should be really proud of yourself. Let's look at this one. I actually like it uncropped. I know that might seem weird. And actually, hold on. I went through, yeah. So I cropped it in a little bit just to see what you were doing here, because I know you're probably trying to get rid of that pole over there. But I actually like the composition of this better for some reason. I don't know why, I just do. You did a great job handling backlit windows. That's really hard, and a lot of ceremonies are like that, but you still have detail in your subject, and I think that's really important. So you should be proud of this image. I mean, you can't control this. You can't control the overexposed background at all. So my suggestion would be, this is what yours look like when you send it to me. So I would just lighten up, again, the darks so you can see a little bit more of his face. It can be a little more exposed. So I'm just going to brighten a little bit of everything. Darken the shadows again. So that's how I edited it. And then let me show you. And that is your edit. So let's put them side by side. So that was your edit, and this is what I did, and it could be just personal preference, but I like it when the skin is exposed a little bit more. He looks a little bit dark, and my concern would be if they printed this image depending on where you're printing it, his face could be extremely dark. So I'd rather be safe than sorry, and I just brighten everything a little bit. And I don't think this looks too overexposed at all, because you can still see detail in her veil. There's no highlights that are blown out besides the background, but you can't help that. So I hope this helps. I really love this image, and I think you did a great job handling that light situation. So let's talk about this one. I think you're right when you said that it's all about the lighting, and that's really the only thing that's wrong with this image is the lighting. So if you're ever shooting in midday, which this is, I can tell, and you're shooting in shade, you always have to have the light to the back of the person, or else you're going to get speckles. And these speckles all over the ground, it's really hard to shoot with them all over your subject because your camera doesn't know how to expose properly. So the way to fix this would be to take him and put him on this side of the tree and make sure the sun is at the back of his head. Or the sun's coming through the trees, because you can, what that's going to do is have an even front to your subject and a little bit of a glow on the back of his head. Even if the sun is right above your subject in the middle of the day, if you're shooting through a tree, there's a way to get the light off their face. So just focus in the future about keeping the front of your subject's face evenly lit. So you never want to have these highlights just because your camera doesn't know what to do with that when it comes to exposure. Now, if you were shooting film, wide open film, you could shoot like this just fine because film just handles highlights so well. But you're digital, and so we have to avoid these situations. So I hope that is helpful. When it comes to editing, I think you did a good job of just trying to darken a little bit of the shadows. Sometimes you can adjust highlights. I don't know if you could tell what that does. Basically, I'm just going back and forth. It's just taking the really bright part of the image and toning it down a little bit. So that's another option. But I hope this was helpful. Thanks for sharing a little bit about your background and how you got into this. I'm excited to help you grow, and I think you're doing a great job. So just focus a little bit on where your light source is coming from and how intense the light is and what that means as far as subject placement. I think you'll see a huge difference in your pictures. So have a great weekend. Bye.